I'm assuming you will see that like we usually
We're ready to start the meeting. Good evening. Welcome to the Educational Services Building. It's Thursday, November 2nd. We're gathered for a regular meeting of the Board of Education. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Murphy, President Murphy, typically chairs the board meeting, but she is with the 8th grade class in Washington, D.C. So I'm Ann Glebzinski, the Vice President. I'm standing in for her today. And the first item on our agenda is recognition and presentation, and we have Providence Park Partners in Excellence recognition. Dr. Matthews?
Thank you, Ms. Glebzinski. And tonight we're going to recognize an important partnership for the Novi Community School District. The Providence Park Hospital provides a variety of financial and educational resources to our district, and their continued commitment to our district allows us to offer wide-ranging experiences that enhance educational and career opportunities for our students. Tonight, Ms. Emily Polanski, our Partners in Excellence Coordinator, will provide some of the details of this positive partnership and express our sincere gratitude for all that they do for us. Ms. Polanski.
Hi everyone, thank you for having us. I want to take a moment here I'm going to share a little video with you and that the students that I put together. But before I get started, I want to make sure in the room we recognize we have Joe Hershey, President of St. John Providence Park Hospital, and we have Allison Cooley, who she has a new title now, Project Manager, who without her none of this could possibly happen. And I also have 3 of my HOSA officers with me, Fu and Neha and Trey, and they're here, and it was the combined work of the students and I that created this little video to help share the story of our partnership.
In 2008, St. John Providence Park Hospital opened its Novi campus, bringing with it amazing opportunities for Novi students. A group of visionaries from Novi Community Schools and St. John Providence Park Hospital saw an opportunity to merge the shared strengths of these 2 organizations. Together, they built the Partners in Excellence program. It began with a medical careers exploration class. In this class, Providence associates come to Novi High School to share their experiences with the students. Then, small groups of students join the associates back at the hospital for hands-on experiences. This has allowed students to engage in rotations, such as casting, suturing, injections, surgical services, radiology, cardiology, pharmacy, laboratory, surgical innovation, and infection control and neuroscience. Over the years, we have kept track of what our students are doing. In a recent survey of med career students from 2009 to 2017, 89% of responders are in the medical field or training to be in the medical field. Some have even returned to become associates at St. John Providence Hospital.
Over time, additional programming grew to support more students. Special education students travel twice a week to build job skills like restocking patient stations. Art students have created artwork to hang on the walls. AP Japanese students have helped as translators, and elementary students have written books for sick children. Still, there were many more students who wanted healthcare experiences. In 2016, a group of these kids started HOSA, an organization for future health leaders. With the guidance of healthcare professionals at St. John Providence Park, Novi HOSA is the largest in the state, with over 400 students winning both state and international accolades. In all, thousands of Novi students have been impacted by this innovative program. And for that, we want to thank St. John Providence Park for being our partner in excellence.
So again, we wanted to make this quick, and we have a certificate for you. Thank you. the certificate. Do you want to come on up? So thank you so much, Allison Cooley and Joe Hershey, and for the entire group of associates at St. John Providence Park that do so many things to support our kids. I don't know what you do in terms of your hiring practices, but I've never seen such a large group of individuals that love their job, and they share that passion with our kids, and we are so grateful. Thank you very much.
I know we don't have a lot of time.
Go ahead, yeah, we'd be happy to
We
hear
would just
your
say,
comments.
on behalf of St. John Providence Health System and Providence Park Hospital, Dr. Matthews and the board and others, it's an honor to be in your company. I can't think of a better example of community and our community at work. And what I believe in community is that it usually starts with great education. You're a very forward-thinking school district. You have a passion for technology, you have a passion for the allied health professions and healthcare in general. And in return, it makes it easy for us to have a passion for education. So your gifts to us and our gifts in return are equally beneficial. It's just an honor to be here and be your hospital, and I think the commonalities that we all love know last. So thank you, and we look to many more years of your collective leadership together. This is a wonderful partnership led by some really wonderful, wonderful people. So thank you. We will share this with the 2,000 plus associates that come to work at our hospital each and every day. So with that, we bid you a wonderful evening, and we'll continue the partnership. Thank you. Good evening.
Are there any board members that want to say something? Stay here for just a second. Mr. O'Connor?
I just wanted to mention, one of the district's goals, goal number 2, is the focus on innovative opportunities for our students. And if there was ever an example of a business and education partnership that we have that's been so successful, this is the partnership that we really need to aspire to. I'd like to thank Mr. Hershey for offering his resources to help us. It is part of that business education partnership that we talk about. I hear a lot, especially at the community college and even at the lower university level, how kids are graduating and they're still exploring at that freshman level, that sophomore level of community college, and that's really not the time to explore. The time to explore, every kid in high school wants to be a nurse or a doctor, correct? And yet, what does that really mean? Through the medical exploration, they learn so many different job skills, job titles, job career opportunities, which again is part of our mission to develop students for 21st century careers. So by having Providence really give us those resources, we're able to let our students explore so that they're ready when they graduate, when they get to that college level. And we really appreciate the fact that you're giving those resources. It's all part of the partnership, so thank you very much.
Mr. Kirk?
I'd also like to say thank you. I don't think there's a meeting that goes by when we don't say we need to do something like they're doing with Providence Park and their partnership. It's really greatly appreciated, and it can be seen by the number of students that have joined HOSA and are exploring those options for careers. So thank you for your partnership, for your resources that you're allowing your kids to take and or to use. And hopefully we have many more years of this, like I said.
Very well said. Thank you very much for being with us this evening, and you're very much appreciated. Have a great night. Thanks. We're all done now. Next on the agenda is our student board member report, and we have a visitor this evening from Novi High School. Please introduce yourself and then go ahead and do your report.
My name is Arlen Whalen. I'm the class of 2018 class president, and I've done a lot of things, but to start off, the PSAT was given on Wednesday, October 11th at Novi High School. The test is a preliminary SAT. All freshmen, sophomores, and juniors were welcome to take the test, but only the juniors will qualify for the National Merit Scholarship. The blood drive took place on Thursday, October 26th, and we hope to save many lives with Novi's donation. Parent-teacher conferences took place on Wednesday, October 25th, and continued to Thursday, October 26th. Our marching band will compete at the MCBA State Championships on Saturday at Ford Field. The talent show will take place on Friday, November 10th at 7 p.m. in the auditorium. Moving to athletics, the Athletic Boosters Craft Show took place on Saturday, October 21st, and we had over 183 vendors. Tomorrow night, the varsity volleyball team will take on Northville in the district championship at 7 p.m. at home. On Saturday, the boys cross country team will have their state meet at the Michigan International Speedway. They'll run at 3:30 p.m. and then at 2:10 p.m. Catherine Ray will represent the girls team, also at MIS. The girls swim and dive team hosts the KLAA championship on Friday and Saturday. Tennis finished 7th in the state, and Abby Livingston shot an 84 at golf state finals at Grand Valley State University.
Great. Always a busy time at the high school.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Thank
much for being with us this evening, and we'll look forward to seeing you at future board meetings.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda are comments from the audience related to agenda items. If you are interested in speaking before the board, you need to fill out, there should be green cards on a table back there with some basic information, and you have up to 5 minutes to share your thoughts. Is there anyone that would like to approach the podium? Not seeing any movement in the audience, we'll move on to the next item, and the next item is reports to the board, and we have one report this evening, the student survey report.
Thank you, Ms. Glebzinski, and I will turn this over to Dr. Weber, who will present to the board the results of our recent 2016-17 student survey that students participated in at the end of last year. Dr. Weber.
Thank you very much, Dr. Matthews. It's my distinct pleasure this evening to elevate and to speak about something that we as a district take very, very seriously. One of our pillars in this district is social justice, and the meaning of that is simply the cultivation and enactment of authentic student voice in a dynamic world. And the students that we have sitting with us tonight, who some of which will be speaking tonight, and the survey results that we're about to share are a true enactment of student voice. We often talk about who our customer is in this business. They're sitting right there. Our kids, their voice and who we serve, they are who we serve. We have given a survey 2 years in a row now with over 5,000 respondents, 5th through 12th grade. The board is in receipt of the last survey, and so we'll be analyzing that tonight to an extent, and we'll also be talking about our summer youth dialogues on race and ethnicity that we've done with the University of Michigan School of Social Work. This evening we have Dr. Jason Almarigi here from Michigan State University. Dr. Almarigi was at Oakland Schools, and he will be adding his input in speaking a bit about the work that he did to get us to this survey. And we have Ms. Darby Hoppenstead as well at the podium. Ms. Hoppenstead is a 15-year employee of the Novi Community School District, a counselor for 13 years, and she's in her second year of being our coordinator of MTSS and 504, and always a passionate advocate for student voice. We also have Dr. Barry Checkaway in the crowd tonight. Dr. Checkaway is from the University of Michigan School of Social Work, the #1 rated school of social work in the nation. We also have Megan Wheat here tonight. Megan is an alumni of Novi High School and spoke here 4 years ago to this very board. We also have Mr. Seth Furlow here tonight. Mr. Furlow was the teacher lead on our summer youth dialogues for this summer. He'll be speaking to that in an extent, and I can't wait for you to hear the voices of the students that we have in this room tonight. You'll see some of that enacted in the survey and some of them when they come to the podium. So why don't we go ahead and dig in, and we'll go ahead, and if the survey could be up on the screen, that would be wonderful for those at home to see, or split screen if you could. Thank you. So we'll start with the survey background information. I'm going to ask Ms. Hoppenstedt and Dr. Almarigi to speak to the background and the genesis of this survey.
So as an employee of Oakland Schools, one of the things I wanted to point out that this was the basis for the Novi survey comes from Oakland Schools, a countywide initiative where they built a survey that would help districts understand the needs and strengths of their students. The goal was to provide district level data to build off of, and also have county level data. One of the things about the survey was that it was built by a committee of adults. And so in conversations that we had here at Novi Schools, we wanted to build something that was unique and that really reflected the voice of students. And so I worked together with Darby and RJ to bring together the voice of students, the voice of staff, the voice of administrators, to build a survey that was powerful and represented the interests of the students. Since then, the success of that survey after the first year, which was piloted here at Oakland or at Novi, that survey was adopted by the county and is serving as the countywide survey.
One of the neat things when we decided that we really needed to look at student voice in ways that we could do that, we started with our high school students and went into our sociology classes, and we shared the survey that we had used in the past, some of the questions, and we asked for feedback. And we did this through, you've heard about our cultures of thinking and ways that we try to make, learning visible, and we were trying to get those ideas visible in a way that captured what students wanted us to know about their experience. So that was one way that we collected information from our high school students, and then we also went into our middle school and spent time in Miss Sarah David's class with her 8th grade students, talking about first what it's like to take a survey. And it was interesting because we asked the question to our students, how many of you have taken a survey? And every hand went up. And then we asked, how many of you have received feedback on the surveys that you've taken? No hands. And then we asked the question, how many of you have seen change as a result of feedback that you've shared on a survey? And no hands went up. So it was clear that we ask a lot of questions, but oftentimes we don't take that information back to our students and really dig into that data and really understand from their perspective what it means, and then help them understand how, as adults, we're trying to take that information and create change.
One thing I wanted to add, as an outsider coming into the district, one of the most remarkable things about talking with students and asking their feedback, it was a tremendously humbling experience to listen to what students had to say. I've been doing surveys for 13 years, working with students, and the information that I received changed how I develop surveys, how I think about surveys. The other thing is that your students are tremendously articulate, very thoughtful, and so I just wanted you to know that you should be very proud of your students.
The purpose of the survey, what do our students think? Oftentimes as adults and educators, we assume that we know what they think, and we don't take the time to talk to them, we don't take the time to ask them in meaningful or real ways. We need to do that. If we're going to build the kind of community school district that we all want to build and aspire to be, then our students really are at the core of this, and the ideas and what they see and what they can bring to us can drive us to be substantially better. And how do we get better as a district? We think of how we can better serve our students. So survey data is one part of it. A piece that perhaps Darby and Jason will speak to. Not only did they engage in the co-creation of the survey with students, 5th through 12th grade. I was with Jason in one of the sessions, and one of the kids kind of raised their hand and said, why don't you just ask us what you want to know? Why all of these questions to get to one simple piece? And then to see them draw Likert scales with the kids of things that were important to them. But then last year, to see them take the first survey results and go back and do focus groups in every one of our buildings with the kids to ask them, are these survey results accurate or not? And I would let them speak to what they found in that, because I think it's powerful. When Ms. Hoppenstedt said that no hands went up when the kids were asked, have they seen change or have they interacted with that survey? What did you guys find when you went back and interacted with your middle school and high school groups as far as the accuracy of the survey?
So we presented the data back, and we had the questions posted. We asked them to make estimates of what they think the percentages would be based on the responses. So, for example, what proportion of kids report that they've been bullied, for example? And so they would make a guess as what they think from their experience. And what we found was that they aligned so well with the actual survey results. And as a psychometrician, one of the things that you really get excited about for that is that this really lends to the validity of the results. And so that was one of the things that I was really excited about, because this is great work. The second thing is that when we gave them the data, they engaged heavily in this. they got so excited and they wanted us to come back. They started contributing additional information, building the breadth of the knowledge that we were looking to identify.
Thank you. On some technical aspects, here are the numbers for our student data from last year. So 2,294 respondents 5th through 12th grade. The window was open in May. We wanted to give youngsters an opportunity to participate in the entire breadth of the year. And then the survey type, perhaps Dr. Almarigi, you can speak to the design of that survey, seeing as how this is really what your area of expertise is.
Sure. So it's a comprehensive survey. So when you look to measure culture and climate, there isn't a single thing that is measured within culture and climate. You measure a lot of different aspects, everything from leadership in the school to interactions between students to individual level variables. And so this is kind of a long survey. It's about 100 questions that students go through. And the idea is to start linking what different systems are. So systems between the overarching functioning of the school, to the functioning of the classroom, to peer-to-peer interactions, to individual perceptions of the students. And so we do that in a manageable way by doing a multiple choice questionnaire. This was also administered online through a system called Qualtrics. It's like SurveyMonkey, but on steroids, which I'll mention part of its capabilities in a minute. Oh, well, this minute. So one of the cool things, let me step back. One of the challenges to doing a multiple choice survey is how do you ask about people's background? So, and especially for a place like Novi, how do you put like 5 different ethnicities down and ask kids to identify? In our first year, we did that, and we followed, I think, the Census Bureau's designations. And what we found is a lot of kids wrote in an other category that they fit something else. And so whether they come from the Indian subcontinent or from Korea, that's just not captured. So we really struggled with trying to figure out how do we honor where families are from, especially in Novi. And so we looked at some of the capabilities of Qualtrics, and one of the things that we could do is we could put a map on the computer screen and say, identify 3 places where your family is from. And what you're looking at here is where Novi families are from the student's lens. And so this is called a heat map, and the brighter red is the greater concentration. So as you can imagine, one of the first locations was Michigan, which is why that is so pronounced. But everywhere else where there are clicks, where students clicked, that indicates where they're from. And so you can see kind of blue areas. Now, you can see blue areas in the oceans. That could be that the map was small, or the kids were not sure where to click. And or potentially they may not understand what to do with the 3rd click if they really identified 2 people. But really looking at where the bright spots are, you can see the representation.
Thank you. So now let's get into a few of the survey results that we pulled and share those with the community tonight. So we'll start with high points that we had, and we chose 3 of those, and I'm going to be looking to my right for Ms. Hoppenstedt and Dr. Almarigi. Anytime that they want to jump in, just let me know. The first point, and one that is exceptionally affirming, is that in terms of your overall education at school, how important are the following people? Parents and core academic teachers rose to the top. Parents being the most important influence on a student and how they progress in school, and then their core academic teachers being the second. And that, when we first saw that and we shared some of these results with our inter-school parents, that was a piece that they took pride on. And Dr. Almarigi was with me when we presented to our PTO parents last year after the first round. Point number 2 is student learning is a priority at my school. This was something that our kids identified with as well, that the respondents said that learning is critically important in our schools, and they take it very seriously. I do want you to remember point number 2, however, when we go into the next slide, which will be points for growth, because it has another side to it that I think we need to be aware of. And then I feel safe at school. Another high point with that our kids feel safe in the schools that they go to and where they are. Did I leave anything out? Next would be points for growth. And on our points for growth, point number 1 is easily the most sobering point that I'm going to show you tonight. First time I saw this data set was a very upsetting experience for me as an educator and a parent. If you look at this number, approximately 14% of the respondents claim that they feel alone at school. If that's the case and you extrapolate that over 6,400 kids, that means we have over 700 kids that feel or would say that they feel alone at school, meaning that there's not an adult or a student that they feel close to. That number is devastating. We need to sit with that a second. And what are we going to do, and what are we going to try to do as a community school district and a community to address that? And I'll be interested to hear from some of our kids as well on that particular piece. The second point, my school views test scores as more important than student learning. So over 40% of our kids believe that our schools view their test scores as more important than their actual learning. So John Dewey once said, school is not preparation for life, school is life. This whole notion that what we are to do in public schools is to simply prepare our kids for life, I think is a notion that we need to challenge ourselves. My November 2nd is no different than the November 2nd of the kids over my right-hand shoulder. I can't look at them and say, well, they're not in the real world yet. I'm just preparing you for the real world. Because my guess is your day was just as real as my day was. As such, that is something that we need to think about. What kind of messaging are we giving as a community or a district that test scores are indeed more important than their learning? Number 3, I asked you to think back to point number 2 on the points of high points, which was student learning as a priority at my school. Over the past school year, how often did you hear someone tease or say something mean or rude about the following aspects of you? Physical appearance, that might be something that most of us would expect to be in a survey like this. The second one is very telling. What you know or what you don't know. You think about the premium put on knowledge, you think about the premium put on performance, you think of those pieces, and then you see the corollary between where kids would identify where they would feel that they were teased. Dr. Elmer.
I just want to point out that that question about what you know and don't know came from the students. They asked us to ask that question.
Thank you. And that's the other part of this survey. And I can't say it enough. Dr. Almarigi and Ms. Hoppenstedt are short-selling themselves. The amount of effort that they put in to make sure that this survey was what the kids would want us to ask was astounding. This wasn't something they bought off the shelf. This isn't something that they mailed in. They went to classrooms, they worked with their kids. They went to classrooms, they worked with their kids. We went beta, did it again to come back. So that question is indeed very critical. I'd like to talk about what we're doing to currently addressing these points for growth. There are so many things to be proud of in the district that we are doing and attempting to. I'm going to go ahead and skip around some of these. Ms. Hoppenstedt's going to jump in on some of these as well. Of course, the leader in me, K through 6. Very, very important in what we do in looking at points number 1, and I feel alone at school. All of our elementary schools do things called dens, or help me there, villas, cabins, where the kids get together with mixing the school up and with older students as well. So that's a function of leader in me. We also have restorative practices at our middle school and Aldeas. Every single week our kids form into circles to have conversations with their teachers and caring adults. At the high school we have Link Crew, which is...
Hang on just a second,
Yeah.
Dr. Weber. When there's an acronym, would you be kind enough to tell us
Sure. So I haven't hit an acronym yet, but Alveus is actually.
is not an acronym.
It's not. It's the last name of a Norwegian doctor who came up with an anti-bullying program. That is
I apologize, I'm ignorant.
No, you're not ignorant. I thought it was as well, and I thought you packaged it a little better than that.
With the capital letters, I mean.
Right on. He apparently it's the last name's important there, and so this is actually one of the highest rated and reviewed anti-bullying programs in the world. And that's why we chose to use it at the middle school. So that Alveus program fits in with the restorative practices. Link Crew is a program that I believe is in the 3rd or 4th year at our high school, and that places a mentor with every single freshman that enters our high school. So before the school year starts, our high school kids link up, Link Crew, with our freshmen. K-12 mental health efforts. So something that we're working on right now and that we're proud of is that of the 4,000 hours of professional development that our staff received before they started school, I think 32% of that time was spent on mental health issues. We're partnering with the University of Michigan Depression Center to start identifying on how we can work with our kids and support them. An example of that would be this Monday, every single Novi High School student is going to see a presentation from Will Heininger from the U of M Depression Center. Some of the parents have seen that presentation. Some of the kids have seen this presentation. I see the head nods back there. Very dynamic, and he'll be speaking to our kids about the stigma of depression. On November 20th, he and Dr. Parikh from the U of M Depression Center will be engaging with parents in a parent forum. Currently slated for the Novi Public Library. That invite will be coming out Tuesday. Our hope is that we have to move that to Novi Middle School because we have so many respondents. So our K-12 mental health effort really is how do we support our kids to take control of their own mental health, to identify when something might be going on, and how to have a healthier mental state in this life. And then Playworks is something we've talked about before, but Playworks is something that we have in our community school district. The biggest presence right now is at VO and OH, Village Oaks and Orchard Hills. And really imagine a playground where you look in that playground and there's not one student looking for somebody to play with or something to do. So it's all about teaching healthy play and getting those relationships to occur at that point. Darby, I left some out there.
So I'll speak about Second Step and why try resilience curriculum. When we were looking for research-based programs, as you know, we were able and very fortunate to have social workers in all of our buildings, and 2 full-time social workers at our high school. We recognized that we needed a research-based curriculum for those social workers to provide to both students with IEPs and our general education students. And Second Step is a program that I had used in the past and felt that it was very user-friendly and appropriate for students and the needs that we have. So we purchased Second Step, grades K through 8, and the Why Try Resilience curriculum, 9-12. And really it's our social emotional curriculum that our social workers and our counselors can use with all students across like a grade level or a classroom. They can use it in small group with students, and they do that in both ways across both really mostly at the K-4 level, and then for small groups getting into Meadows and our middle school and high school. So those are 2 curriculums that we use in our district, and also PBIS is listed, and that means Positive Behavior Intervention Supports. And as you know, we have a MTSS framework that we are living into, and PBIS is really the behavior side of that framework, where we focus on in Tier 1 universal expectations that are explicitly taught to all students, and it provides us a common language around behavior expectations for our students. And then moving up through the tiers, it's a tiered support system. So students in Tier 2 that have either social, emotional, or behavioral issues are provided certain interventions. And moving to Tier 3, which is the more intensive type intervention for our students that often involves direct support from our social workers at that tier. So PBIS is just a framework that we are building and developing across all levels for our students.
Thank you. On point number 2, regarding our emphasis on students believing we value test scores over learning, purposeful homework committee at the high school, really analyzing and seeing what kind of homework are we giving, how much are we giving, is it really purposeful and useful, or are we giving it for busy work? Trying to strip that away from our students. As I look again over my right shoulder, every single student I see with us tonight do things way, way beyond simply going to school between 7 and 2. And many, many pursuits. When we overload our students with homework that really doesn't have a purpose, we're doing a huge disservice to them, their time, their ability to sleep, and seeing head nods again. Wow. All of these things. So we need to analyze that. Project-based learning work has been going on throughout the district, and really that moves away from the paper and pencil and actually having the kids connect in very authentic and real ways. And the cultures of thinking, which Darby had mentioned earlier, and using cultures of thinking strategies and techniques and working with our kids, is really based on this idea of showing what we know visibly, not just to paper and pencil, but graphic representations and conversations. We go to point number 3 on that part of people being made fun of. We have all this again, restorative practices, link crew, positive behavior, intervention support. Novi for All is something that's come out of our special education department, student services department, and really elevating all of our students with disabilities, our students with IEPs.
I also want to add, across all buildings, we have peer-to-peer that was launched last year, and that's our social workers are charged with peer-to-peer. And really what we do is take students with IEPs that have been identified that may struggle with relationships and social skills, and we pair those students with students that are general education students, and they work together throughout the year as both mentors, and they learn, and they have groups, and those groups are facilitated by our social workers.
Fantastic. And now this is a bit of a bifurcated presentation, so we're going to make a pivot here, and I'm going to ask Dr. Elmarigi and Ms. Hoppenstedt to just, if they want to go ahead and sit close to the podium, because I think they're going to need to be up there shortly. And Mr. Furlow, if you want to go ahead, and perhaps Ms. Wheat, go up beside Mr. Furlow. Oh, you just gave me the look like you weren't expecting that. Sorry, it's a bit of a curveball. So, example of elevating student voice and agency. And really that comes in a couple pieces. This is the Summer Youth Dialogues on Race and Ethnicity, and then our Impact 17 Professional Development. So our Impact 17 Professional Development, which every single teacher and administrator went through, and Ms. Glebzinski, thank you. I know you were there, and you were in one of the sessions we're about to talk about, and we appreciate you being there, was the first time that we could find anything in the nation where our kids led every teacher and administrator in professional development based around how they view the classrooms through their eyes. The kids led the teachers in 75-minute sessions, with the backbone being the survey that we just showed you, but also their own experience in the Novi Community School District. These kids are absolute inspirations to so many of us. For them to go through training as they did all summer and then step into the breach for 2 straight days, over 600 hours of PD, to get in front of the teachers that taught them to run the room for 75 minutes takes more guts than most people I know have in their entire body. They have it in their pinkies. They stepped in and did it. And they did the work to get there. And it wasn't always elegant, and it wasn't always perfect, and it was messy, and it got tense, and it got difficult on occasion, and they did it. And for that, truly an inspiration. So the Summer Youth Dialogues, and we're lucky to have Dr. Checkaway here as well, was something that was started, I believe, 13 years ago. I'm getting the head nod there. 13 years ago. And Mr. Furlow is going to speak to it. I'm going to put the next slide up for him, and then Ms. Wheat, if there's an opportunity that you could add some to that as well. So first, before they speak to it, here's a wonderful picture. They're all happy and smiling. They see, I think, look at it. Wait, they're jumping on each other's backs. These are some of the kids after the 2 days of professional development in a picture that they took after that. And I wanted you to see that, to feel the energy that they put into it. I think that was the joy that you see in there. Is maybe they're finished. The joy that hard work was there. So, Mr. Furlow, if you could kindly take us through a little bit of the Summer Youth Dialogues program, and if Dr. Checkaway wanted to jump in.
Yeah, sure. I think it would be most appropriate to start with kind of the end result, like what are we hoping to get out of this, and what do we know that our students are getting out of this. And I would hold Megan up as the prime example of this. As a junior at U of M, and a former SYD participant, this has shaped the work that she's done. And don't let her be humble or Dr. Weber be humble in the fact that Megan and Darby were the ones that planned the entire series of sessions for our staff. And so as a current undergrad, to come in and do that and work a lot in the summer, it was incredibly impressive to watch. But the Youth Dialogues program, the way we run this at the high school is that we put out basically an all call to teachers. We get some assignments from U of M first, talking about which races and ethnicities, which maybe Dr. Checkaway can mention something about that in a few minutes, about why it's selected that way, because I remember the very first time I heard that, the very first impression we were given was that this is supposed to be a program that was supposed to build understanding and acceptance across a diverse community in Metro Detroit, and they were said, oh, but by the way, send only your white kids or only your East Asian kids. And it's a little counterintuitive at first, but there is a very distinct reason that occurs. So we put out recommendations, requests for the teachers. This year we had probably 120 students that were recommended. About 80 plus of those showed up for an informational session where they were given some more details about the program itself and the time commitments. Applications were collected. After that point, a group of teachers, including myself, reviewed the applications and then notified the students if they were accepted or not. I believe we had around 7 to 9 students in each of the groups. This year we were assigned an East Asian group and a white group. Those groups meet independently with some facilitators from U of M to discuss kind of just their own backgrounds and to learn what it's like to be them and rely on each other within their own kind of community. Then they get paired up with a group who is historically different from them. This year we had 2 groups that we were paired with. One was from Southwest Detroit and the other one was from Dearborn. A support group called ACCESS, which is an acronym, and I don't remember what it stands for, even though I grew up in Dearborn. But it's an Arab American support community group. And so then we had students that they went back and forth with each other, meeting each other's communities, and then they spent about a week on campus where all the groups that participate in the Metro Detroit area come together for a week full of enriching dialogue and discussion. And then some things that have been added recently, they do a really good job of prepping the students that are there for what it's like to apply to college and what to expect. They brought in writing coaches this year to work with the students to help them writing personal essays. They give them specific tours of the campus at U of M just to see kind of what that campus particularly looks like. I think we're a little bit lucky here. A lot of our students have probably been at Ann Arbor before, if given the opportunity. But a lot of the students that are participants in the SYD program, a lot of them literally never left their own communities. And so that is a brand new experience for them. And so to have our Novi students kind of work with other students from around the Metro Detroit area just opens up their perspective in terms of what their whole community really does entail. It's not just Novi, but it's the greater Metro Detroit area. Tell me if I'm putting this in the right way, but I want to say one of the reasons that the Summer Youth Dialogue program even became a thing, especially in Metro Detroit, is that the Detroit metropolitan area is consistently ranked #1 in terms of the most segregated large communities in the United States. So we have a large body of different ethnicities that are represented, but they are all in very distinct pockets that occur in different communities. And so the opportunity for our youth to be able to expand their perspective and to engage and learn from people who are different from them is not the way it is in Novi. I mean, we're pretty lucky here because we do have such a broad community in terms of the number of different groups that are represented, but most communities in Metro Detroit are not like this at all. We are by far the most diverse community in Metro Detroit.
And perhaps Megan, if it'd be important for you to stay up there once Ms. Hoppenstedt comes up and you guys really talk about the summer work and we see more of our students coming to the podium. One of the pieces that Mr. Furlow does besides that recruiting part is going and attending the sessions with the kids, providing support to the parents. We were at Fordson High School for the final presentation, and the parents of the youngsters we have here in our crowd were exceptionally grateful of the Novi Community School District for providing this opportunity for their kids. We have examples of students who have had earned much due to this program, full ride scholarships to places like Vanderbilt. We have parents that would come and tell us and tell the board and be happy to come and tell the board what an incredibly valuable program this was for their children. And that is exceptionally gratifying to hear as well. So to Mr. Furlow and to Dr. Checkaway, the University of Michigan School of Social Work, thank you so much, giving our kids a chance and an opportunity to see the world in ways that they may not have been able to before then. So thank you.
Well, and I failed to mention this part too. Not only did Megan help to plan and lead the student-led dialogue sessions, but she actually does work for the Summer Youth Dialogues program now. So she's one of the program coordinators that works in terms of the behind-the-scenes programming that takes place for the students and the experience that they have. So it's, you know, not only just the scholarships that are available that students have been able to earn, but it's the work opportunities, the real-life experiences, the leadership abilities that our students are getting that allow them to be, you know, standing in front of you today as, you know, still undergraduates, but doing just amazing work. So.
And a few of you were at the board table 4 years ago when a young Miss Megan Wheat, Oliva Jr., came to present in front of you, and her voice cracking and her nerves getting her, and absolutely doing a fantastic job. So it's good to see you here again. I'm going to ask Ms. Hoppenstedt to come and join you up at the podium right now. And also you'll see a number of our kids coming up. I promised them that I would only ask them to speak if they were comfortable in doing so. So the next slide is right here. So our Summer Youth Dialogue students, as well as other students from past Summer Youth Dialogues groups to students who weren't in it, led over 500 hours of professional development for the Novi Community School District and staff during Impact 17. And I'd like to just point this last piece out, and then I will stop. Yep. And these are the two goals that they presented to their teachers. Understand how the space teachers create in their classroom can positively or negatively impact students and achievement, and understand how educators can balance being an ally and authority figure. The students came up with these two questions. The students came up with the format. The students came up and executed all of it, because if we're going to talk about student voice, we better be willing to honor it. The picture on the left is the impact brochure, and on the board members' screens, it's probably a little bit too small, but you can see it up on the larger screen, perhaps at home. But the column there that is most interesting to me is where you'll see the youth dialogues piece, and you go across that whole line. Every single staff member was required to go. It was not an option. It was not an opt-out. We believe that if we are all going to have an understanding of what we're doing in our classrooms, then we should hear it and see it through the eyes, ears, voices of our kids. The middle picture is a picture of our kids at the Novi Library on a Sunday in the summertime. Sunday, summertime, working. And on the right, you actually see a session happening right there with some of our kids running it. So with that said, Ms. Hoppenstedt and Ms. Wheat, if you could please inform the board on the great work that you did and that our team here did.
Sure. First, I just want to say what an amazing honor and privilege and how inspiring it was to work with Megan over the last 9 months or so. If I could be what you are, I mean, at age 20, to be able to plan and facilitate and execute in the way that you did was just absolutely incredible. So I want to first say that, you know, Megan and I started collaborating last February, March on this project. You know, we provided student-led sessions at our previous year's Impact, but it was on a small scale. I think we ran 2 sessions, and the focus, you know, was optional for staff. The focus was on issues of stereotypes and bias, and students ran through exercises with staff. And the feedback that we received after those sessions, it was the highest rated session of our Impact days, and we knew that we needed to bring this back to all staff and make the sessions mandatory, because we believe in you know, our students and what they are capable of. So you know, that's where we began last March in planning, and then I'll let Megan talk about the work.
Yeah, so I'll speak a little bit to that. We started planning last February or March. We started meeting with a group of high school students we started with conversations about if you could be in a space with your teacher, like these workshops, like what would you want to tell them, what lessons would you want to give them to improve their teaching. And so that's where we really went off from. That's where we came up with these goals at the end of it. yeah, it took a couple months to formulate. Throughout the summer, we went through trainings. We created this curriculum based off of it. I don't know if I'm going through the right parts. But yeah, this whole entire, the structure of the curriculum, maybe I typed it up, but it was completely student-led, student voice. It was everything that they wanted to do in that workshop, we did. Everything that they wanted to tell the teachers, we put it in there the best that we can. They said very early on that we wanted to do like a role play with our teachers of if we want them to understand the position that we are in every day so that we can learn better, which is what the first goal touches to, is how the space that you create in the classroom can positively or negatively impact achievement. We wanted that to be felt into that, growth and learning and performance.
And Megan, and one of the moves you all made was they actually did a simulation of what it might be like if you're a student in a classroom with dyslexia. And so they huddled teachers up and gave them several different pieces to read, but didn't let the teachers know that they were different. So if you received a piece that was very difficult to read, it could be very frustrating as a student. And then the students took the role of what a teacher could do to be supportive or not, and shared that truth with the room. And that's where some tension, I think, emanated from as well. So the fact that you as students chose something that was, I thought, very empathetic and very real around learning disabilities that some of our students may have says a lot about you as well.
Yeah, that was half of, so we had one big workshop. We split the group into two. One of them was doing that, I call it like a pod because it was kind of just like a vessel of teachers and students around them. That's just me. And then the other one was based on class and the differences that we see in the classroom and the problems that social class can create in terms of disparities in resources and how that affects student learning and achievement. We had the teachers sit down. We gave them the same task, but different sets of materials and different types of encouragement based upon what people define as success and achievement. Like the most colorful picture is the best picture, right? But like, what if I didn't have any markers? And so that was the second part of it. We kind of tried to touch on the implicit and explicit parts of class and how that affects our classroom, how that affects students' achievements. And then in the same way that Dr. Weber was just explaining of the students coming and being an ally or an authority figure. And after we did the simulation for about the first third of the workshop, we went and we did small group and then a large group debrief. We talked about the observations. What was it like? What did you feel? What did you wish would have gone better? And then we brought it out and we incorporated the survey data into this conversation of what you all heard earlier, like the I feel alone or I... See, my voice is going to crack again.
It's all right. It's all right.
But yeah, and so being made fun of for what you know and what you don't know, and how can we incorporate this empirical data and the experience that you just had that was created by students to improve your teaching?
Can I just, these are high school students who put this together, right? These are our kids. Can we just take a second to think of how incredible what she just explained was? They're not professional teachers. They're not professional educators. They put together a 75-minute session that was able to elevate the temperature in the room appropriately to have real conversation with each other. As an educator, I look at that and I just say, wow, I mean, Mr. Ferrillo, you teach every day. You get it. This is not something that's easy to do. And they did it. So it's okay if your voice cracks. Like, this is I just needed to pause on that because it really is something that I'm not so certain you as the students understand really how difficult it was to do what you did and to do it as well as you did, just because you don't have the frame of reference of the gray hair and stuff like that I do, right? So
I think on that point, on the difficulty aspect, I want to also highlight how simple it was. All I did in the beginning, all we did was sit down and say, what would you like to see? And how can we do that? And how can we be there to help you make that happen? How can we help you? Well, how can you be kind of like an agent of your own education? And so as much as it was difficult and super impressive what they all did this whole entire summer and in professional development, the steps to getting there is asking simple questions and having conversations and creating a workshop around those conversations. And like Dr. Weber said, it did get messy sometimes. Sometimes there's kind of like we had this whole entire thing about names and putting names on the paper, and teachers are so upset because they got a 0 on the assignment because they forgot to put their name. And the students would walk around and just be like, how long have you been in the education system for? And it was just this moment of like, oh my goodness, I do this every single day and I can't even practice it when I'm being a student. And so it was small moments like that I think really, we simulate them and we talk about them, and I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It was powerful. Now I think perhaps hearing from some of the students of either the experience that they had at Impact or what student youth dialogues meant to them, and your chance, if you feel comfortable, to come to the podium and maybe say or share with a hope you may have of this work or an observation that you this work. I mean, this is about as literal student voice as you can get. It's your voice and you're a student, and you're here. So if you'd like to come up to the podium, please feel free to come up and share a few words with the community. And you'll please your name and your name, rank, and serial number. No, name and grade would be great.
Okay. Hi.
And step a little so that the whole board can see.
Okay. Hi, my name is Micah Stargell. I'm a senior, and I went to SYD last summer, and it was a life-changing experience. Without SYD, I wouldn't have had the opportunities that I have now. I was actually a part of the very first impact session that was ran last summer with the pilot group of teachers, and I also helped work side by side with Megan and Mrs. Hoppenstedt in planning this session this past summer. And my goal or my hope for impact and the impact that it will have on Novi and Novi teachers is to see it continue and to spread farther on into maybe other districts. As Novi is a lead in education, we should be a lead in social change as well. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Alex Schaefer. First, I would like to lift up Mr. Furlow to kind of lead this entire program and have students out of their bed at around 7 a.m. In the summer, and driving all across Metro Detroit that's a pretty big deal. So thank you for your motivation for these students behind me. This program meant a lot to me, and I want to thank the board for your support. I met a young student named Ishmael from Etzel Ford, and he told me about kind of the discrimination he would face from his own teachers at Etzel Ford. And to kind of hear that from, I'm a senior, and to hear that from another senior, that's truly heartbreaking for me. To reflect on that, like we saw in the student survey, I mean, being number 2 most important adult in someone's life, core academic teachers, that's a big deal to have a core academic teacher look down on you like that and discriminate against you like that. In Novi, I think we take for granted a lot how fortunate we are. And I know I have taken for granted the support I have, the network I have going for my academic, athletic, social success. And I can't say that is something that other school systems have provided. This program has most definitely made these Novi students incredibly hungry, motivated, leading to the Impact 17 event you saw. These students were willing to step up and be the change that they want to see. And these students are now wanting to move outside and affect the rest of Metro Detroit. So thank you for your support.
Hi, I'm Zijin Huang. I'm also a senior. And what SYD really did for me was it made me not just know of the diversity in our community, but really understand it. I guess here at Novi we know that we're a diverse community, that we represent many different cultures, but I don't think we necessarily always understand what that diversity means. Like, this came up a lot during our dialogues during the summer, and that's that even within Novi, we segregate ourselves into our cultural groups, and we don't always reach out. And that is the stem of a lot of the bullying and misunderstanding that happens. So SYD forced me into that group with people who weren't like me, and let us have conversations in between each other so that we could understand each other better. And it helped me become a better speaker. It helped me become a better listener. And honestly, I think it made me a better person. It made me realize how fortunate we are in Novi to have this strength of diversity and what that means. As for the Impact 17, that was also honestly a life-changing experience, I think, because for once I was in a room with teachers and we were equals in that room in that moment, and I could just tell them what my experience was, and the teachers would listen and take that to heart. At least some of them did. So, and I thought that opportunity was incredible because I know that for me it was amazing to hear some of my former teachers walk away and say, wow, I never thought about it that way. And then hear from my younger underclassmen friends that, yeah, that teacher has made changes in their classroom now because of the perspective that they gained from the student. And that just made me feel like I was making a difference. And it felt really great.
Hi, my name is Marina Ackerman and I'm a junior. I think one of the biggest things that I remember from this experience was, I'm sorry I'm putting you on the spot, but Alice texted me after the program ended, and her actual texts were, dude, I think that changed my life, I'm a different person. And I'm not kidding. Those are really simple text messages, but I mean, it really showed how it changed all of us. I mean, she went on to mention, like, I mean, I don't want to admit this, but like sometimes, well, I'm Asian, obviously, and like with your friends you joke about being Asian and you joke about stereotypes and things like that, but like hearing those after the program has run made me think of them differently, like, yeah, that's really not cool and things like that. So that's something that she mentioned. And also about impact, I think it was really different for us to be for the teachers to be the majority of people in the room, and for us to kind of switch roles and have that happen, listening to their feedback and some of the things that they noticed from it, and like Megan mentioned earlier, like their reactions from that too. And yeah, thank you.
Hey, hi, I'm Alice. I sent my text message. I'm a junior, and I think that after SYD, I went home and I kind of told my friends about it. And then I got a text from this one girl, and she told me that she asked me what this was all about, and then I told her, oh, it's like this program through U of M, and you go and you have dialogues regarding race and diversity. And I remember she told me that she was also recommended for this, but someone told her not to do it because they were just asking for money, and that, like, that really upset me. And I think that one thing is it's important to have the educators aware of what happens, but on the opposite side of the spectrum, we also need to let the students aware. So I think that going forward, I hope that we can also have things like Impact 17, where we switch roles, but we incorporate other students within the district so they can also go through this experience that we went through. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gwen. I'm a senior. One of the things I wanted to kind of quickly touch on was kind of the networking that we did while we were there. Being forced to be in groups of people who we would not normally choose to be with was something that I think was really invaluable. Not only did it create a group of people who could talk openly about this, but at least for me personally, it created an emotional support group. Some of the kids that I met this summer, spending every weekend with them for months on end, they're my best friends now. I trust them with my emotions, but it goes a step further than that, because there are kids who have come to me from summer youth dialogues and have kind of asked me to do simple things that we all ask each other to do, like editing college papers or looking over homework. But the difference is these kids don't have the same opportunities as us. They're coming to us as Novi kids because we have all these amenities, and they trust us more than they trust their teachers. this web of support is just incredible. It's not something that you normally see in a lot of teenagers, and I think it's really valuable because a lot of connections that we make in high school are not necessarily substantial, if that makes any sense. Thank you guys so much.
Hello, I'm Edward Seo. Just before anything I say, just want to mention that my English is not perfect. My pronunciation is bad. So yeah, I appreciate if you understand and the viewers. Anyway, let me start off saying what I experienced before I went to SYD and Impact 17. Yeah. So it was like 2 years ago, I think. There was like a substitute teacher in my, I forgot the class, but it was a substitute teacher, and when he was reading off the roster, as he read off like student's name, he found my name, which is not. Yeah, Edward is not. It's not my legal name. My legal name is a little bit difficult. It's pretty hard to pronounce. I'm not gonna say it here, but so he was like right before sorry. So like he was trying to read my name, but he couldn't. And now like after that, he was like he's trying to like use my name. He's like trying to make fun of my name because he cannot like pronounce. Now he like after he was like asking other students like to pronounce just try to pronounce my name. I'm pretty sure they cannot because it's kind of hard. So, and at the end he was like I think he's not she's trying to be like funny, but like to make my name. It's like I don't know how to explain this. Never mind. But like so like after I got like so like he was mocking me. So I felt at that time I felt like nah, I just have to accept it because my name is hard. There's some people who cannot understand other culture names, other culture aspect. So like I was just sitting down saying nothing. I thought there's like no way to solve. But after experience SYD and Impact 17, like that idea just changed, like 100% changed. I'm sorry. So what I learned during SYD and Impact 17 is that there's a way to solve. There's a way to solve, and there's like way to teach. There's like way to tell that there are people who are different, and how to treat people, how to treat everyone equally, and not bullying student or just people because they have different name, difficult name, or different culture, different look, different sex, and it's kind of huge. It changed my life actually because now I know that there is a way to change how like there's a way to change there's this way to change how others treat different like people from different countries. So like I hope this kind of like SYD or Impact Center or other kind of other kind of thing like other kind of program will continue and then and improve our district or more than just improve our our Detroit metropolitans or just maybe just improve our Michigan. Yeah, I'm sorry, but thank you for listening.
Yeah. No need to apologize for that, Edward. Thank you so much. So a lot of information tonight, but I will say that if we don't take the time or we don't think we have the time to listen to our kids, then we should probably ask why we're in this business. With that said, questions from the board for any of the members who spoke tonight? They're all here. Mr. Furlow is here, Dr. Almarigi, Ms. Hoppenstedt, our wonderful kids and alumni, or myself.
fellow board members, anyone?
I do have a few questions. It stated that 2,294 students completed the survey out of the 5th through 12th grade. How many students do we have in 5th through 12th grade? Because I want to make sure that it's being done by all students, because all students matter.
All
So
students
if it's-
definitely matter, and I think Dr. Elmarigi, if you could please step to the podium perhaps and talk about sample size and validity of survey. That's the question. That's the question that Ms. Stevenson has.
Right. So I don't know exactly how many.
We're about 4,000.
They're about 4,000. So we're about half of the students. So I'm going to first agree with you. In an ideal world, all students would take the survey and all students would have that voice. We gave some latitude to the schools to administer the survey. And so I'm not sure all the factors that went in, but I think course schedule were factors. Now, having looked at the statistics, I didn't necessarily see bias, because if you would see some pretty significant differences at the high school than the middle school, because I think the middle school did survey almost every student, and so I didn't see that kind of difference.
So when you're talking about a student feeling alone, as a teenager, as a young teenager, they don't even really know who they are as a person. So I mean, you have to think about where their mental state is as a middle school student, as opposed to being a senior in high school, junior in high school, where they have that kind of almost under their wing. Does that make sense? Because I'm saying, like, we have to think about, I feel alone, okay, what's their mental state of mind? Things like that.
So one of the things I would say that's beautiful about this work being done at Novi is that when you do a survey in any community at any age, there are going to be people in different states of mind, and that's going to affect how they respond to questions, especially questions that are about personal nature. But the survey itself is a starting point to the discussion, right? It's a point at which we gather some input, and then we continue the conversation with students, with staff. I think, going to your point, I had a very rich conversation with parents, parents of students at all age levels. And one of the things that they pointed out was that they were excited that their child had that voice, and they made suggestions about how we can increase that voice. One of the suggestions that they made was creating an opportunity through the survey to reach out, to have an administrator or a counselor reach out if one of the questions triggered something in their memory or in their experience.
And I believe Ms. Stevenson, you had a couple other questions.
With the program, and you stated that, I can't remember how many, you said 85 of however many were applicants were chosen. What's the criteria? Like, are we, you all look awesome. And I know you're asking good questions, but what about those lower end of the spectrum students that need to have a voice as well?
So Seth, if you could grab the podium.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yes, I mean, some of you might remember a couple of years ago, we came in front of you to talk about a program called Communication Camp, and one of the criticisms of the Communication Camp was that it didn't serve enough kids, and I volunteered at that point to do that full time to try to get as many kids in there as possible, and that obviously wasn't financially feasible. The same thing with the SYD program. I mean, I wish we could bring as many kids as possible. For reasons that maybe Dr. Chekwe might like to mention, that we are assigned specific demographics each year, and those change. The students who are recommended, the particular type of student that we're looking for primarily are ones that do have already some strong leadership capabilities. This is an interactive program. This is a program that we want students to expound on their own experiences, but also learn from others, but they need to do that. And although the students feel like it was a considerable amount of time that they spent, it's a relatively short amount of time that they actually have together. And so to kind of teach and train and work with the students on developing leadership skills would kind of go counter to the nature of the program. So one of the things that we're looking for in terms of recommendations is to have students that do come in that already have been recognized by some of the staff members in the building as having strong opinions, are capable of having good conversations and not shutting other people down immediately upon hearing something that they disagree with or that is different from them. But this is for sure something I think all students could benefit from, but it's just the nature of the time that we have that it's not a possibility that we can get every single student. So when you're talking about the students that might have higher needs in these areas, these are things that we're looking for in terms of asking our students to bring programming back. And so one of the things they're tasked with is at the end of the program, they are doing presentations on an action project that they want to carry forward. And so they are still currently working on their action project in terms of getting it off the ground. We will hopefully see their finished product at some point this school year. That the goal and the intent of that is to reach the rest of our student body as a whole. And so the small core that gets to go will hopefully be able to come back and share their experiences and have a bigger impact on the greater student body.
And also the requirement to attend every single session. Self-eject, several kids had to self-eject from that because of vacation plans and other pieces.
Yeah, almost half had to pretty much withdraw immediately because of sports camps, family vacations, mission trips, with only 5 individual dialogue sessions plus the retreat. It was a lot of time that we were asking in terms of it was spread out throughout the summer, and priority was given to students who said that they could for sure commit to doing all of the individual dates. Do you want to talk a little more about the groups?
Yeah, just a bit. And thank you for letting me come tonight. And Novi is our oldest partner, and we care a great deal about working with Novi, and we really thank Novi for sending and being part of this program from almost the beginning. The focus is on the metropolitan area, which is both segregated, highly segregated, but also has diversity. We want young people to develop the capacity to talk with people, to have dialogue with people who are different from themselves across segregated boundaries. So we structure the program so that we represent different racial and ethnic groups. The program at the present time focuses on race and ethnicity. However, all kinds of social class differences, educational differences, religious differences will come up during the course of the program. We bring them to get people of a particular racial and ethnic group will talk among themselves about their own social identity, because many of us have never had that opportunity before. We then bring them together, and Seth mentions groups of historic differences, and then we bring all of the groups together for a week of intensive interaction, followed by community projects. The university asks the community to decide who they will send to the program. But because we want different racial and ethnic groups, we will sometimes ask for an East Asian group, or a white group, or a black group. And that's because it's part of the larger metropolis. That's what the mosaic of the program is like. One other thing I will just say about it is that we would love to be able to have more people in our program than we're presently able to have. We generally have about 85 each year. There is nothing to prevent a community from trying to try out a program like this across the district and across the community. You have differences within the Novi community and the Novi school district. It is conceivable that we could work with you all to help tailor something that would be just for Novi. And if that were the case, then the ability to be able to broaden the social class backgrounds, the racial and ethnic backgrounds, and it just might be something that you'd want to think about at some point. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Checkway. Ms. Stevenson, another question, was it?
I think I'm okay.
Okay.
Mr. Mena?
Yeah, Dr. Weber, you took a big pause when you mentioned that 14% of our students feel alone, and obviously that's of concern. But safety takes priority over social belonging. It's not me, it's part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and you'll probably learn that if you haven't already in high school. I don't know where that comes up. But I took pause when I saw only 32% of students who said they feel unsafe or at least are unsure of their safety. So what is it that you take away from that question? Because you highlighted that as a positive, that 68% of the folks felt safe. And yet I look at that as a negative.
So looking at and I know the board was provided with all of the survey data, and I'm sure that you reviewed it, Mr. Mena, is the piece that we looked for numbers within there that were positive outliers, or outliers that were areas of concern. You'd like to see that number at 100%, but we also took out a significant area of kids that also said unsure, not sure how to answer that, and I know Dr. Almarigi can also speak to the fact of how some of those numbers came up. So we looked at it as something that when you look at the scope of the survey, it was something that kids identified at a higher level than other pieces.
The only thing I think I would add is, if I remember correctly, the question just asked about safety. It didn't ask about physical safety versus psychological safety, so that might be a consideration.
Okay.
Having seen data at the county level, I think it's important to remember that Novi is a powerful place and has a lot of advantages. That is reflected in the survey data, and so while that number that you bring out is about safety is concerning, it is among the lowest in terms of across the county in terms of lack of safety.
Mr. Cook?
On the survey, you mentioned that this is the second year for it. Are there any other points of pride where we did excel over the previous year that are not listed here?
I think there is a ton. I have taken a position at Michigan State. I've not looked at this in a while. I don't know if Dr. Weber wants to talk about some of that. I think across the survey, again, looking at Novi versus the county, Novi is functioning at a very high level. And so I think one could look at any of the domains within the survey and say, we are doing well. I personally always come from a point of how can we grow? Even though we're great, where can we grow? And so that's kind of how I focus. But I mean, if there are, in any area of the survey, I mean, Novi is doing well.
That's kind of what I'm asking. How did we grow over the previous year, and where those points of pride are in that?
I think the points of pride that we see, a survey like this, when we're looking at growth, and a metric of 1 year isn't a way that we would look at it. We would look at this, and Jason, feel free to jump in on this part of it as well, is do we see trends that we need to address or trends that we can take pride in? What are those trends saying? Knowing that different kids are going to answer them and so on. I think our parent survey response was maybe 1 of 10. I'm trying to think back to that on that part of it. And looking at how we analyze that as a baseline, this is part of a baseline. So if the answer to this is empirically, how do we grow within 1 year of giving this survey, we haven't looked at it that closely, but what we can say is that these are trends that we've seen that the kids in both surveys identified with their parents and their core academic teachers as being important. The priorities at the school are there, and that emotional safety and physical safety is there, but I'd be more than happy to analyze the survey for such things.
The other thing is with 2 points of data, it's hard to show a growth trajectory or a decline. And so you don't know how much variation is related to the sampling, related to some historical context that's playing a part of that. We are starting to analyze the year-to-year data, and just offhand, the relationship between students and teachers appears to be growing. So I think that's a point of pride that I would look at.
Thank you, Dr. Ellery.
Thank you. And another question would be, we've got some points for growth here, and of the 3 points for growth, you list 13 different programs that we've got going. Those have all been going for a period of time. Is there anything new that you might want to try to improve on those points of growth?
Absolutely, Mr. Cook, and that's really the part where when you go down to the K-12 mental health effort and component, and something that we're bringing together parents, students, and educators to attend to that. We're seeing our kids talk about rising rates of anxiety and stress. Our minds are wide open and our eyes are wide open in any way we can support our kids. So there are a few things we're looking at within that framework right off the bat. All of Washtenaw County will be going to a tiered process, much like an MTSS process of a Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Tier 1 would be something that they call peer-to-peer within the county. Tier 2 being something called the Trails program. And Tier 3 would be Safe Talk, which is a suicide prevention program that we have used and begun to use with our counselors. But that's a great question, and one that we are continuously searching for, is how to help provide a better experience for our kids.
One last thing then, point number 3 on our points for growth is the, I've heard somebody tease or be mean or be rude. I know it is not necessarily bullying, but we've had very, very few incidences reported of bullying. But we see, 23% on both of these, whether it's physical appearance or what they know and stuff. That kind of doesn't quite correlate with the number of bullying offenses we've had, if this is really a concern.
I think the piece that we see in an anonymous survey, which is really great, is the fact that kids don't have to formalize that report to anybody. That if a student doesn't feel like they have a connection or can talk about feeling bullied or harassed in any way, shape, or form, perhaps the survey let them do that within there. So if you're not seeing the number and the hard data on that part from bullying, I would posit that, quite frankly, that question 3 and point 3 there, I should say, is why these types of surveys are not the be-all, end-all of an approach, but just another data point.
I guess, I wanted to take an opportunity to talk about that. I would almost say that value, 23%, is underrepresented. But since we do have students here, raise your hand if you feel like the 23% is a fair estimate. Raise your hand if you feel like it's too high. Raise your hand if you think it's too low. So again, survey data to start the dialogue.
Yes.
Thank you.
Other board members, anyone else? This has been very informative, and as Dr. Weber indicated, I did participate in Impact 17 this summer. I teach at a community college, so it gave me a lot of things to think about in terms of my own classroom and approach, and I've seen an increase in diversity at the community college I speak at, and I teach at also. So, and it was really humbling and interesting to watch our faculty respond to you all leading the discussion and not giving them all the resources. And I hope that my fellow board members will at some point have the opportunity to also, I don't know how much, as new people enter the district, if we're going to repeat this or not. But it was, I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms.
For that leadership. I also want to say thank you to, and I may not be good with these names, but I'm going to try, Dr. Almarigi, Dr. Checkaway, Ms. Habenstadt, Ms. Wheat, and Mr. Furlow. Thank you very much for the time that you've given this evening to share with us, and also the students from the high school. Thank you. I know you have busy schedules and a lot of things going, so I appreciate your sticking with us.
And a final thank you to the board and the community for supporting these efforts and our kids. One of the students said it, that they get students that they met needing help because of the privilege that we have. And to see our community support these efforts, the Board of Education support these efforts, humbly, very, very grateful. And thank you for that to the board and to the community.
We're going to proceed with our agenda, and you can certainly be dismissed. Thank you.
Or you can stay.
You can stay. We're really exciting. The next item on our agenda are consent items, and consent items are of a nature such that typically there's no discussion of them. This evening we have two items on the consent agenda: approval of minutes and approval of field trips. I would entertain a motion. Mr. Mena?
Yeah, motion to approve consent item A and B is presented.
Support.
It's been moved by Mr. Mena and supported by Mrs. Stevenson. I'll call the question. All those in favor of passing the consent item agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries 6-0. We have two items on action items this evening. The first ones are personnel report. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Glebzinski, and I will turn to our new Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, Mr. Kinzer, to present the personnel report this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. We have three items on the list tonight. First, a resignation, Lindsay Bajolian, who is a special education parapro at Novi Meadows, and her resignation is effective tomorrow. And Andrea Zacharek, who is a preschool teacher at the Early Child Educational Center, also effective tomorrow. Both of those positions are posted, and there will be subs in place on Monday. And then finally, also a leave of absence, Melissa Krieger, who's a middle school English language arts teacher, effective December 22nd.
Okay, thank you. I will entertain a motion. Mr. Cook?
I move that the Novi Community School District Board of Education adopts personnel report recommendations as presented.
Support? Okay, is there any discussion?
Question, special ed parapro and special ed teachers, how are we doing on staffing that? Do we have the adequate number of special ed teachers that we need and parapros that we need for our
I do think we have positions posted, so I think Mrs. Patel is working on that. I can't give you a more accurate status update for the moment. I know that she's trying to fill posted positions. The position is posted until filled.
Other questions? All right, it's been moved by Mr. Cook and supported by Mrs. Hood. I'll call the question. All those in favor of adopting the personnel recommendations as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. The next item for action this evening is our audit report. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Glebzinski. Annually, the school districts are required to have a financial audit completed. On October 12, 2017, the Finance Committee of the Board of Education met with Laura Clays, partner, and Chris Geck, associate from the auditing firm at Plant Moran, and reviewed the results of the audit for the school year that ended June 30, 2017. Ms. Clays and Mr. Geck explained the audit process and reviewed the audit documents. You have attached to the report this evening the following documents: the financial report, the financial report letter, the A133 report, the capital projects report letter, and the presentation that was made to the Board of Education. At the October 19, 2017 board member, Ms. Clays and Mr. Geck presented the results of the audit, and tonight we would ask the board to accept the audit. And if you have additional questions, Ms. Minnick is here to answer those for you.
So I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Cook.
I move the Novi Community School District Board of Education accept the 2016-17 financial statements as presented.
Is there support?
I support.
Mrs. Hood supports. Is there discussion?
I just want to again thank Ms. Clays and Mr. Geck for their work, and also to Ms. Minnick's department and group that helped them out throughout this entire process. It's a lot of work, and they seem to rise to the challenge all the time, providing everything that's needed. So.
Anyone else?
I do.
Mr. Knight?
Yes, we tend to take these for granted here in Novi. Generally speaking, these come in pretty glowing. So My expectation is this is what happens everywhere else. Not the case. Not the case. You see a lot in the news of other districts, other institutions having problems. So I've come to appreciate it even more. So thank you for the work that you do.
Mr. O'Connor,
To echo
sorry.
what Mr. Menace said, I attended a South Lyon City Council meeting last week that had a plan report, and they were talking about 12 different exceptions, and it went on for about 90 minutes. So we do take it for granted in terms of how buttoned up we are. It's good to see.
With that in mind, I'll call the question. All those in favor of accepting the 2016-17 financial statements as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries 6-0. All right, we have one item for information and discussion. I want to thank you for our guests in the audience that have been patiently waiting for this item to come before the board. We have bid package number 9. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Gludzinski, and I will turn to Ms. Minnick.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Matthews. This evening, we have before you, for information, the results of bid pack number 9. On October 19th, the bids for district-wide parking lot lighting replacements and interior and exterior lighting and mechanical HVAC work at Novi Woods and the Novi High School alarm replacement system were opened and publicly read aloud. This evening we have Doug Underwood, the project director with McCarthy and Smith, with us this evening to review the details of the project work and the outcomes of the bid.
Good, thank you. Guess start off with, I think this is potentially our last bid package having to do with the 2014 bond. So this bid package, as Ms. Minnick talked about, is basically to brighten the district up. It's primarily a lighting replacement project. We're going into basically 10 of the buildings, replacing such things as emergency lighting, exit lighting throughout the district. There are a few of the buildings where we're still replacing some of the gym lighting and some of the miscellaneous lighting that may not have happened during other projects that were associated with the bond. Another big item is the parking lot lights. We're going through basically every site, replacing the heads on the existing poles. All the lighting, be it interior lighting that we're doing or exterior lighting, is all LED lighting that will be incorporated. So obviously there will be potentially some energy savings with that as well. So that's kind of the extent of the work. Ms. Minnick did mention there was one small HVAC project that we're doing at Novi Meadows, which is for the gym and the cafeteria. We're replacing the condensing units that are up on the roof for those units. Those units feed the cafeteria and the gyms on the 5th grade wing of that building. And I think that pretty well does all the mechanical equipment then at that building. So with that, we did take bids on October 19th. We had basically 3 divisions of work. One of them we kind of divided up so that kind of sharing a piece of the pie, I guess you could say, with the electrical work inside the buildings. So we had roughly 20 bids that were received on the 19th for this scope of work. You've got the bid tab in your packet. You can see that we basically received 6 or 7 bids for each category of work, which was very good. Again, I think kudos to the administration on planning the work, TMP getting the work designed so that we can get this out on the streets to the bidding community early before a lot of other districts are getting their work out on the streets. We do intend to do a lot of this work on a second shift basis throughout the winter months here and proceed with that. We had a budget basically established of about $1.6 million for this. We're at about 1.15, so we're realizing about a $450,000 positive variance, which we're all very happy with. And so with that, we'll be looking on November 16th to get approval from you folks to issue contracts to these bidders, but I'll ask if anyone has any questions at this point.
Is there anyone that would like to ask any questions to Mr. Mennel?
Mr. Underwood, could you let us know as far as lighting in the parking lots, what kind of brightness gain we are to expect?
Don't have that.
Okay. I mean, will it be noticeable? I'm not looking for any.
I'm sure it
significantly
will be.
noticeable. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I just speaking on my own behalf, I drive across 696 quite a bit over the last few years. I mean, you can definitely tell the difference when they changed out the LED lights from the old Edison lights that were basically up there. As far as what that comparison is, we can get that information and have that for the 16th.
So, I mean, I guess simply speaking, when we drive into the parking lot, will we notice a difference?
I think so.
Okay.
I think it'll be a lot cleaner light. Just like you see in the classrooms that, you go over to Novi High School where we used LED lighting in those classrooms. I mean, it is a brighter light as far as I'm concerned, but what the actual statistics or numbers are on what that is. But I know we're putting a lot of LED light fixtures in the parking lots over in Farmington High, and it is a pretty distinct difference.
Does that answer your
Yes,
question?
yes.
Satisfactory?
I wasn't looking for a specific number. I was just.
Okay. Good. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Mr. Cook?
Have we looked at any areas that are shadowed or shaded now that may potentially adding more lighting in for the exterior areas?
I think primarily what this was pretty much a one-for-one replacement. I don't know that there was a study done, there was a survey done of the sites. Because there's obviously lighting calculations that need to be provided for the state for the permitting and that type of thing. So probably through that survey and the light calculations that were done, it's you can always use more light, I imagine, in a lot of different places, right?
Yeah. The other thing is, because we're only replacing the heads, are we going to inspect the poles and the mounting of the poles to make sure that everything is solid?
That was done. And
that was done.
Some circumstances we're replacing bases where they were cracked.
Okay, because in last year, no less than 3 light poles have come down at my place of work. So.
Yeah, that won't matter.
I think it's either Village. I think it's Village Oaks where we have a few bases that will be going in as new bases and light poles as well. But for the most part, I think the survey and the tests that were done showed that everything was pretty adequate.
Now, for emergency lighting, I mean, typically we have like one light that stays on throughout a hallway and stuff like that. Will that, are those lights identified in some way for them? Or
those that typically stay on are night lighting.
Yeah.
Your emergency lighting is more if you lose power. There is the backup to
battery.
So it'll be basically the same process. A lot of your buildings have generators, so the generator kicks on. And that's what fields those lights.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, this item will come back for action at our November 16th meeting. It's bid package number 9. If you think of questions that you have between now and our next meeting, please send those to Dr. Matthews so we can get them answered. And I'd like to thank you, Mr. Underwood, and the other consultants that are with us this evening for bearing with us and for diligently improving our systems at the school. Thank you very much. Okay, we are to the next opportunity for comments from the audience. I don't see anyone approaching the podium at this point, so we'll move on to the superintendent report. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Glebzinski. Superintendent's report is brief this evening. It's a busy weekend, as was mentioned in our student report for Novi students. The Novi High School Marching Band competes in the state finals of the Michigan Competing Band Association this Saturday at Ford Field. They have an outstanding program, and we wish them well in the final competition of the season. Novi High School girls volleyball team will play Northville tomorrow night on Friday for the district championship. Catherine Ray is a member of the Novi High School girls cross country team, and she qualified for the state finals with a fourth place finish at regionals. And so she will compete this weekend at the state finals in girls cross country. And the Novi High School boys cross country team also qualified, and they will compete this weekend. And Gabe Mudell was the regional champion in cross country. Our 8th grade students are in Washington, D.C. this week. From what I can see on Twitter today, they look like they're having a good time so far. Miss Murphy is still alive and kicking as we speak. And I would like to thank our students who came this evening to talk about their summer experience with Youth Dialogues on Race and Ethnicity. The program with the University of Michigan is a wonderful opportunity for our students, and as you can see this evening, they come back with some very powerful experiences that will help them as they continue to mature and grow in their educational opportunities. So that's my report for this evening.
All right, thank you, Dr. Matthews. We have an opportunity for administrative reports. Is there anyone that would like to share with us? We'll start with Ms. Medic.
Thank you. Yes, I just have two things. As you're aware, our area had a water main break, and so we were under a boil water advisory for quite a while. But as you know, our schools were closed last Tuesday, but we were able to reopen on Wednesday as a result of efforts of many involved. For instance, the maintenance and custodial crews had to bag and tag all of the drinking fountains throughout the district, ensure that the toilets and the faucets had enough water pressure in order to operate on Wednesday. Food service operations. They had to follow the Oakland County Health Department protocols by boiling and cooling the water for all produce washing, food preparation, cooking surface areas, and food prep. They delivered approximately 150 cases of water for student and staff consumption across the district for the rest of that week. And after the advisory was lifted, our food service staff had to flush and sanitize all food service prep surfaces and equipment. They had to sanitize it, including all the steamers and all the ice machines throughout the district for athletics. And all the other departments, our maintenance staff flushed water lines and replaced filters throughout the district, removed and rinsed faucet aerators. It took the efforts of many people who I'm not mentioning, but I want to thank all of them for all their efforts. It took a lot of work. And I also want to mention, thanks to our supportive community, 3 more new shiny buses arrived yesterday as a result of the passage of the bond issues back in 2014. And so we have a total of 26 buses purchased with our 2014 bond issue. And so I just want to thank the community for their support, keeping our students safe on the roads.
Great. Do you have personnel report?
Just wanted to share a brief summary of my first 9 days in district. First, I wanted to just say thank you. I'm very grateful to Mrs. Diglio for the first 7 of those 9 days I was able to spend with her, learning a lot. I've been immersing myself in district practice procedure, systems. There's a lot to learn. I've been touring buildings. I've been to transportation, maintenance, the Early Childhood Educational Center, Deerfield, Parkview, Novi Woods, Novi Meadows, and the middle school. So I still have Orchard, Hills, Village Oaks, and the high school. I'll try to get to those as soon as possible. Met many people across the district, and I'm just very impressed with the energy and professionalism of our staff, certainly our students tonight, and I feel very fortunate to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Weber?
Probably heard enough out of me tonight.
Well,
I'm fine.
I would kind of say you used your minutes. But
Yeah,
if
other
you have
than
things that you'd like to share, we'd
just
be happy
one
to
simple
hear them.
thing, and that's I'm grateful that sitting beside me, Jill and Gary are 2 people that I can already tell are going to make an amazing team to work with, and there are aspects of each of them that I could go on and on about already. But I just want to say I'm grateful that they're here with us in Novi, and I look forward to becoming an even better district. So thanks.
Sure. Are there committee reports? I just Governance and Finance Committee. We canceled last week because of the water situation, because school was closed on October 24th, and that was the day that we were supposed to meet. We have rescheduled that meeting to Monday, November 6th from 5 to 7 p.m. As a result, the meeting that we had scheduled for November 14th will no longer be necessary. We're kind of meeting halfway in between. And that's it for committee reports, because we only have 2. Is there board communication? Anyone want to share anything they've been up to? Mr. Cook?
This goes back to almost before I was even on the board, but I am involved in the science fair, or what you might have formerly known as a science fair at Parkview. This year it's changing quite a bit. Last year we made it more of a convention. This year, through the work of Bridget Zaradnik and some of the other teachers there, they have partnered with the Henry Ford. Coming up in May, from the STEAMY Coalition, and STEAMY stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Mathematics, Invention, and Entrepreneurship. They have a national convention at the Henry Ford, and with our partnership with Parkview, and it's a judged presentation, we will be able to enter a number of teams or kids in that national competition. It's really, it takes it from just being able to go out and do a science experiment you find on the web and repeating it, to the kids actually solving a real life problem, coming up with something, inventing something. Some of the kids in the past, one kid on a farm discovered that his chickens were pecking his arm when he go to harvest the eggs, and so he made a guard for his arm. Simple as that. But it's he was one of the winners. So I'd like to thank Bridget Zaradnik for her leadership on this, and although it has put some work on my table for coming up and getting information out to the families, but it's going to be a great opportunity for kids at Parkview.
So this is a Parkview event?
Parkview is piloting this with them, and it's pulling their science fair ahead so that we can judge the kids in time to get them entered into this national competition.
There are other science fair projects at other schools?
Yes, the other schools are still doing their science fairs as they did.
Okay, great, wonderful. Thank you for your leadership in that. Anyone else? I just want to share that a week or so ago, I was able to attend the Japanese School of Detroit open house, and their leadership and professionalism and attention to detail for that open house, and the number of staff and volunteers they have to make that event very special and unique was really wonderful. And I appreciated the opportunity to attend at the high school and understand more what's going on with our high school students, and as well as be at Meadows to hear the presentation from the educators that had the opportunity to travel to Japan last summer. So thank you for the opportunity for our district to participate and partner with the Japanese School of Detroit in continuing to house their program. It's approximately 1,000 students on Saturdays, and it's a lot of effort on their part. So thank you for that opportunity. Before I ask for a motion to adjourn, this will end the regular meeting of the board, but we are going to have a work session this evening. So we'll adjourn, and then we'll take about an 8-minute break, and then we'll come back for our work session. There will be no decisions that are made in the work session. All of that is always made at our regular meeting. So, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Mena. Who would like to support?
Support.
Supported by Mrs. Stevenson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 6-0. This ends the regular meeting of November 2nd of the Board of Education. Thank you for joining us.